seems to me that, I don't like what I'm gonna have to say in the next, well, I don't say I feel uncomfortable, but I feel like it's another sad day for the Bridge and Port Authority that this past week we lost another beloved employee, and I would really like to honor her with a moment of silence. Debbie Abel, who has lost her life in a long, tough fight with cancer, and truly going to be missed from this organization's standpoint, and pretty sad, pretty sad. So please rise. God bless. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting in order. It's 4:12 p.m. Wade, do we have any letters of communication to the board?
We have several. It's been a pretty busy period here, and I'd like to point out a couple of things. Need to thank a lot of folks here. Relative to our bridge application for the Tiger funding, the discretionary grant program, there is a very important letter you'll see on the top of the board read file. It's signed by Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Bill Owens, Member of Congress, and Senator Charles Schumer. It's addressed to Ray LaHood, who is the Secretary of Transportation. It's in direct support of our application to the Tiger 4 discretionary grant program. And we'd be remiss if we didn't specifically thank the individuals involved in making this happen. So obviously, thank you to both U.S. senators and our congressmen for their efforts in this regard. In addition, for the Tiger 4 support, we also have a letter in the packet from the Development Authority of the North Country. We have a letter from State Senator Patty Ritchie in here as well, supporting our efforts. And we have a letter from the mayor of the city of Ogdensburg supporting their efforts. On the Port Access Road, we've also had some very good support there as well. You'll notice in the packet a joint letter from New York State Senator Patty Ritchie and New York State Senator Joseph Greffo regarding the importance of the Port Access Road and advocating additional funding for the project. There's a letter in there, Mayor, City of Ogdensburg, St. Lawrence County IDA, Longshoreman Support, Plattsburgh North Country Chamber of Commerce, Ogdensburg Chamber of Commerce. There's things on the way from the City of Ogdensburg. The North Country Regional Council approved our request to, I gotta be careful how I phrase that. The North Country Regional Council met on Friday of last week and forwarded our request on to Empire State Development, agreeing with our position to reprogram $450,000 from a reimbursable grant to the Port Access Road project. The results of that are uncertain at this time and are with Empire State Development for final decision. So we have had just a wonderful month in terms of support from virtually every agency that we deal with on a variety of different projects, and we'd be remiss without thanking them and recognizing them. We have sent out thank you letters as well as having personal contact. One thing I noticed that is not on here but should be is also St. Lawrence County Legislature also passed a resolution in support of the Port Access Road project earlier this week. Mr. Chairman, beyond that, just our standard news articles and other paraphernalia in the board packet.
Thank you. It's very encouraging to see all those levels of support at all levels that relate to how important this project really is. Much appreciated. Any other communications for the board? Anybody here? Nobody? What I'd like to do is have approval of board minutes. None? Okay. Comments from presentation of citizens regarding agenda? Anybody?
Sam,
Yes,
if I
sir.
could.
Yes.
I'd like to introduce two guests that are here tonight, and that is Kevin Irwin on our left and Joel Hurd. They are here with some equipment from North Country Public Radio. They are independent contractors, though, who will be supplying audio and video recording for the meeting, and will be providing us with some equipment or helping us purchase the correct equipment for future recording of our meetings. And they also will provide closed captioning for those meetings. And they're here tonight with this North Country Public Radio equipment to start that process.
Yeah, that's really appreciated, because I know in the past, looking on our site, when it was very difficult to hear and pick out, even I look good on that camera. But I mean, really, I mean, for people, and I know it's quite interesting, because people have applied for jobs or, made presentation here, they go on our site, whatever, and they, kind of captivate our meetings, whatever, so I think it's, upgrading our audiovisual is commendable. Thank you. We're now into staff reports. Wade?
Been a March was a very busy month. First and foremost, again, I'd be remiss without thanking the multitude of folks that reached out to us at the Ogdensburg Boys and Girls Club Expo. I have to say, out of all the trade shows we do during the year, that's probably my favorite in terms of hearing from the local community about what's going on, what they like, what they don't like, and getting some feedback from the community. So I'd like to thank the Ogdensburg Boys and Girls Club for putting on an excellent show and the positive feedback that we've received from the local community. As I mentioned, the approach ban rehabilitation project has been on our mind. We've been moving that forward and advocating with a variety of parties. You see the results in the board read file. Met with New York State DOT on several different issues throughout the period. The RFP for the digital sign is out. The foreign trade zone experts have responded in terms of our request on the sale of diesel fuel, and that should be in your board read file. Is that correct, Tisha? Okay, great. Thank you. Completed mandatory authorities budget office board management and training session during the month. We switched our cell phones over to the New York State contract, which thank you very much, Patty. Everything is still working without a hitch, so that's wonderful. Labor Management Committee meeting, growth fund meeting during the period. We're still trying to garner support for our FHWA bridge sensor application. We're expecting to hear an announcement in May, June timeframe of this year. There's something significant in terms of the Port of Ogdensburg at the airport. The airport capital improvement plan that you recently approved will need to be reapproved because the FAA funding levels have changed. The projects used to be 95% FAA, 2.5% DOT, 2.5% OBPA. The current level of funding is 90% FAA, 2.5% New York State DOT, and the balance, as it stands right now, would be on OBPA's dime. There is some legislation out there, I'm told, that is looking to increase the DOT's funding, so ultimately the projects would be 90% FAA, 5% New York State DOT, 5% OBPA. What does that mean, big picture to us? On the airport capital improvement plan, that's that funding change is a difference of $850,000 out of our pocket over the course of 5 years, based on the plan that was previously approved. So there'll be further discussion regarding that, and we'll update you as things change.
Wait, that 850 is related to a move to 5% or 7.5%?
That's a move to 5%. A couple other interesting things. We looked at a drainage easement at the airport. I think we've come up with another potential solution based on a site visit. We still need to reach out to New York State DOT to see what we can do there. I compliment staff on our Herculean effort to reach out to every agency that we deal with for support on the Port Access Road. We've done really well in that regard. The rail related activities in the month included refreshing the price of the locomotive. A locomotive last year that cost $300,000 cost $395,000 this year. That was part of our grant submittal process. Several outstanding issues were discussed with New York and Ogdensburg, and the Port Wharf rail lead is presently being raised up to basically between 9 inches and 1.5 feet, and makes it nice level either side. Allen Vanguard started up operations in Building 14. That went fairly smoothly. We've held several port insurance discussions and got a better handle on our risk overall as a result of those discussions. You'll see tonight that the team did a wonderful job on the project that we'll talk about here in the next couple of minutes for a 2012 project cargo agreement for not one but 2 large windmill projects in our region. I'm extremely proud of staff performance on this, and this has been an extremely difficult negotiation. Held discussions with the longshoremen regarding the upcoming project and the local and national master agreements that will govern this upcoming project. As you're aware, the RFQ went out to solicit for project developers on the Proctor Avenue parcel. This will be, information will be back. April 30th is the date that we open that, and we should be able to have some consideration of candidates there to send out the RFP to with a very short turnaround time. We've got a letter agreement for additional short-term space rental at the port, and just a variety of other general stuff going on throughout the month.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a couple of questions in regards to wage report.
Okay.
I understand that following the newspaper, which has, we are involved in the growth fund, and I understand that they're gonna revise the growth fund and the rules and bylaws. Is that right?
At the last meeting, I'm the alternate for our chairman of the board, who's a permanent member of the growth fund. At that meeting, it was discussed about the various projects that were funded as a grant as opposed to a loan. Bylaws require loans. These funding sources were put together as a grant. That's a problem. The growth fund and the growth fund and the consultant are presently working through these issues, and I believe there's a meeting Monday at 4 o'clock to follow up on that.
But my question was, I understand they're gonna redo the bylaws and the rules and procedures of, I'd just like to know who's gonna be handling it. Is that gonna be handled by like the city council? Or is that
There
gonna
was
be?
no discussion regarding revising bylaws. There was revision of grants, but no revision of bylaws.
Well, maybe you can fill me in at a later date, but I believe that there is some changes gonna be made to the bylaws, and of course, us being one of the sponsors and permanent members of that, I'd like to make sure that we will know what those changes are gonna be, for this board can at least know
Certainly.
what they are.
I'll be happy to bring that back to the board in my next report.
I don't know who's doing it, that's why I was asking the question. The next thing is, I've indicated to you in your report, and I'd like to make it known, Mr. Chairman, now that there is a need for executive session to discuss the longshoremen's agreement and stuff that was reached in the master agreement. There's some issues there that I'd like to discuss in regards to unions and stuff.
Okay, we get that point. we'll-
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know I need an executive
Okay.
session because it's not on the
Okay,
thing.
we'll do that.
Thank you.
One comment I'd like to make, Wade, and I know we're gonna talk about the cargo project, whatever, and you use the word difficult. I think you need to clarify all the levels of logistical things that made it, I don't say, difficult may be interpreted as a wrong type of word, but there was so much logistical type of things that are involved in this project that it took a lot of man-hours to figure certain things out and work agreements back and forth. That took a lot of time with John and Steve and, you know, the people involved in our staff. So the word difficult, I don't think they're really.
Time consuming.
Time consuming.
Would
I
be
mean,
more appropriate.
it was hard. It was really hard for a lot of things that are happening. Fred was involved, myself involved, and, you know, the staff, whatever, all the committees, whatever, but, obviously, when you get to the dance, it's and we're getting to the dance. You start to understand it wasn't easy to get there. It wasn't easy to get there. The start of of locating and starting the project, and you know we haven't even done the really difficult part yet. I guess it's like getting a job. You say getting the job was the easy part. Now you got to do the hard part. You got to go do the job, and that obviously that really is really farther ahead for us. But I think the word difficult, what may have been taken out of context, and really clarify the complexity of making this happen. And it's still not over yet. I mean, it's still not over yet, but I think there's a lot to say for you and our staff, and what a great job you did to get us this far, and John and Steve, you know, and everybody involved. So hats off, guys, because it's really going to impact a lot of people here. It's a big thing. Thank you. All
I
right.
take it that has been signed.
Yes. We have a signed agreement ready for board action this evening.
Yeah. Most people throw their hats up in the air and cheer.
We don't have any.
All right, well, we'll get there.
Yeah, we forgot to order them.
No order, time to order. Hard hats,
You gotta give
whatever.
us the signal.
I just like to say it. I just like to say
For
one
me,
thing.
it's gotta
Sam
be
is
a
right
hat
on.
trick. It was
some of
two, it was supposed to be.
The Sam is definitely right on some of it, because I think one of the things that I had heard through this whole process was, I thought the nicest thing I heard was, well, the ships are on their way. I looked at Steve and I said, ships are on their way. But we hadn't had a contract yet, but we had some boats coming towards us
Boats coming,
anyways.
we know where they're
So
going.
that kind of took us by surprise for a minute anyways.
We'll talk about the specifics when we get to the agenda item, but this is really a big deal. What this is gonna mean, this is gonna mean over 70 people put to work here in Ogdensburg at up to $39 an hour. This is gonna mean 1,000 trucks leaving the port. This is gonna mean 210 inbound rail cars. This is gonna mean over $300,000 in direct wages pumped.
Oh, you got the rail cars too?
pumped into the yes,
Oh, beautiful.
pumped into the community with a 3-to-1 multiplier. This is a big deal. The turbines themselves, when we get to the specifics, are 1/3 larger than what we dealt with before. There's more of them as well, and they're the complete units as well. So it's pretty exciting, and I can't wait to get to that item on the agenda when we get there.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any more comments to Wade in regards to his report? No? Okay, Fred, it's yours.
Okay. There's no financial statements. This month, we're working on the year-end close, and I don't want to present you with incomplete financial information. The bridge traffic, well, we'll come back to the bridge traffic report and the airport report that's being distributed now. Under analysis, I think we just talked about that a lot, but the fourth bullet provided analysis participating in refining proposals for a potential marine terminal project. That is one bullet on this thing, but it probably could have been at least half of the time that I've spent since the last meeting. It's been an intense process. Under other, I assisted John by showing a building to a customer while he was away on other business. That was an opportunity that I enjoyed doing, and I think the talks with that customer are ongoing. Of course, you were here at that special meeting when we returned from the trip to DOT, looking for the port access project funding, and I put nothing in there about sprawling out on the street.
Well, I put it on the record, so.
That's
I
right.
seen you fall.
That's right, I did. I
Yeah,
twisted
seems
my
to be
ankle and
correct.
down I went. And of course, I've got the bullet here about the Joel Hurd and Kevin Irwin being here tonight. So let's go to the bridge report. Auto traffic was up 19.5% in March over March of last year. Continuing that trend, that strong auto crossing improvement year over year. That brought the year-to-date to 15.6% increase. That's an increase in numbers of 89,000 autos. Trucks were down 10% in March over March of the year before. Total crossings for the year are, and this is the end of our fiscal year, we're up 13.75%
Overall,
overall.
what is the truck traffic? You know? Just the truck, is it down?
Yeah, it's down, and we had 5,578 trucks in March, 70,600 for the year versus 71,600 for the year before, down 1,000 over the course of the entire
I
year.
know we talked about it the last board meeting, I just give it a little input here that some of the folks that I've talked to, the owner-operators and stuff, they're parking them like I told you. They just can't fuel them up. And without a backhaul, they're not even moving. They want their backhauls guaranteed, and it's getting tougher out there for the owner-operator. And it's getting tougher for all the trucking companies, it doesn't matter who it is, but I know we talked about it, I just thought I'd share it with you, because I talked to a few of them. And it's bad when you go across the country and you haven't got a backhaul. And that's really bad.
The autos continue strong, and I think the news that the state has taken the sales tax off clothing will only help bring more Canadian shoppers, and that and our lower price of gasoline, I think bodes well for future increases in auto traffic.
And the proposed changes in the amount of goods that they can bring back
Yes.
to Canada
That's
is
huge.
huge.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's,
they just changed that.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
huge.
So we hope to see that continue strong. The airport, I didn't get the fuel sales completed in time for this meeting, but passenger traffic was, or we had 752 passengers for March, way up over the 480 of a year ago. We had 65.45% increase year over year in passengers. I do have a new line on there, enplanements. Of that 7743 for the year, 3,951 were outbound, getting on planes here. Any questions about the airport reports, bridge report, or anything else about the finances?
When do you do the audit?
The audit will be, they usually come at the end of May, and it'll be.
To May, okay.
Yeah.
So it shows in March, but I mean, I'm just saying they don't do it until May now.
Well, the year ends March 31st, and
Yeah.
then I've got to get all of the
A month to-
accruals and all that stuff done and be ready for them. Account reconciliations and all that.
Now, what about this foreign trade zone oil, fuel oil thing?
The foreign trade zone, there's a response that's in your board packet. The answer on the jet fuel side is yes. The answer on the diesel fuel is no. But there's a variation of the question that we need to ask. And we need to ask that, and the answer may come back differently. So we just received that initial response. We'll turn that around and
So you're gonna talk about that response?
I can. It's in your board packet here.
I think it's important that we talk about it, because it's a very important drive that could help our facilities here and our bridge, plus our airport. You say it can be used at the airport?
Yes, it's basically, it's in your packet.
Okay.
So, it's in your board read
Well,
file.
why don't you talk to us about that right now while
Certainly.
you and Fred are going over this?
What we did is we asked the question about conceptually a gas station immediately adjacent to the bridge. So in other words, let's talk about the airport first, and then that'll help dovetail the bridge discussion. If you file a flight plan and you're leaving the United States, you could fuel up and fuel your plane and avoid the taxes on the fuel, fly to Canada, because you've left the country. You can take advantage of that. Well, the question came up, why can't you do that with commercial truck vehicles? Have the same thing, but at the bridge. And the answer to that question, a variation of that question, was asked by the Ambassador Bridge in Detroit. Cutting right down through to the bottom line answer here, while it is allowed at the airport, it was not allowed in the case of the Detroit Bridge. And the reason it was not allowed is because it was phrased as retail sales. If you avoid retail sales are not permitted in the foreign trade zone. The question that I think we need to ask is, what about commercial sales? In other words, if you had a restricted pump that only fueled semis, again, very similar. The trucking paperwork has them leaving the US. Explain to us how that is different from the airport. So in other words, you phrase the question in the same method that the airport is approved. The airport FTZ is approved. And I think we'll get a different answer there. But we need to ask this question. We just literally received this yesterday.
If we don't get a different answer, it might be interesting to see what the rationale is.
Exactly. So, we're gonna spend some money, a little bit of money here. Don't know exactly what it is, but we need to ask that question and get that ruling. Because what we're talking about here is the equivalent of 60 cents per gallon of diesel fuel that equates to taxes. That's a big number. That's a very big number. So, not our recommendation, but our intent is to pursue this, ask the question differently, avoid the retail trade question, restrict it to commercial sales of big rigs, and see if we get a different answer. So that's what we'll be doing in the next 30 days.
See if,
So,
there's not just trucks, just buses too. Because there's transportation. See if there's any, difference of the two,
well,
just in case.
but the issue here is to bring the Canadian trucks across our bridge and have a facility here where they can fuel up in the foreign trade zone. Then proceed on into the United States, deliver their products, return to here, and go back into Canada.
With the foreign trade zone, you have to leave the country, so it actually works the other way around. The truck has to fuel up and then leave the US. He can't turn around and come back.
Well, I'm trying to loop it how it would loop. If it would come if I got a load of freight coming in from Canada, and it's going to Pennsylvania, and I can fuel up here and save 60 cents a gallon to the foreign trade zone, just a minute, I'm surely not gonna waste 60 cents when I'm going back, because I'm coming back here to fuel up and go back into Canada. Vice versa with an American driver. So the American driver would fuel up here, go into Canada, do his deliveries, pick up what he's gotta pick up, and come back and fuel up.
That's incorrect. It would work, the FTZ would work like the airport model, where the plane has to leave the country. You couldn't have a Canadian plane come in, fuel up, and then proceed on into the US. It has to be the other way around. The FTZ only works the one direction.
Very interesting.
But that's a nuance we'll work through.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't wanna put a great expansion out here without having the.
I guess not, but that is
To
what it
me,
meant.
that's the answer of getting traffic for our bridge. You know what I'm saying? Is the going and coming. Surely, if they can save 60 cents a gallon, because all trucks hold 400 gallons. Most of them. So you're talking, 200 saddles on each side, they fill them up, they go do their thing, and they're gonna come back to fill up and go across that bridge. So you got them coming both ways, is what I'm trying to say. That's all.
Well, Fred, even if the Canadians were coming back, they could save $240 a fill-up.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
oh, yeah.
it might entice truck traffic to go this way just to go
Oh, I
home.
think so, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Go
that
over
could
to whatever
influence
bridge
our
you wanna go
northbound
over, we're
traffic.
coming back this way.
Yeah. Well, I just figured if they had to come into the foreign trade zone, there's a reason for it. And it's the economic part of it, is the mechanics of it, how it works. But, it seems like what I'm hearing is only for the Canadian trucks. it's not for the American drivers, and, I'm a little, let's be fair.
Well, an American driver going into Canada could take advantage of it.
Yeah.
It may be
I asked that,
duty free.
you said no.
You were going the other way first and came back.
Well, I keep it both ways, I want to, see which way you turn. But we got a good conversation on it anyways.
So we'll get some more information.
Thank you very much. Maybe we'll have to hook a plane to it, I don't know.
The planes are landed on you. Oh, my God, Fred. Fred, anything else you want to offer? You got it?
No, I'm
Okay.
all set, thank you.
Any more questions for Fred? Okay, John, please.
As Wade mentioned, we're going to get a large volume of project cargo. We finalized the agreement today. I'm proud of the effort. It's been 5 years in the making, literally 5 years in the making since we first made contact with this company. So it's been on again, off again, personnel changes, meeting with the actual manufacturers of the projects as well as logistics firms and the shipping companies. So it'll be about 42,000 short tons of product and be about 9 to 11 vessels. So nice accomplishment for everybody. We've also worked on pricing additional windmill cargo for 2014 that'll be going to a Canadian island. It's the second quote we provided for that, so we're already looking at 2013, 2014 projects. We provided stevedoring rates, port rates, and additional follow-up information to a prospect for inbound cargo during 2014. And we've drafted a letter to the state encouraging this firm to use the port facilities. The state does have some clout in regards to this and can actually dictate which facility is used. We provided rail rates to a grain company that is looking at bringing in some product this year. We've moved a considerable amount of salt since at least one customer has provided a springtime price. I don't know what the quantities of that are, maybe Steve does. We continue negotiations with the cement firm. That's kind of gotten cold as of late. We'll know more by the end of April where that stands. Tomorrow we have a kickoff meeting with stakeholders who will participate with the beginning of the marketing strategy development by DCG Core Plan. Yesterday we held 2 seminars in regards to the Foreign Trade Zone program, one in Messina, one in Governor. Both of those went well. We had probably 16, 17 people in attendance. Our DOT Tiger grant was filed. Met with 2 Montreal firms recently. One of those is given some thought to a U.S. expansion in the next 6 months to 24 months, so we'll continue working with them. Not big numbers, but a good prospect. We have a meeting in late April with an existing tenant that is given serious consideration to an expansion. Our grants are pending with the St. Lawrence River Valley Redevelopment Agency. Wade, Fred, and I worked Expo. That went very well. Steve, with your suggestion about the travel guide, we're taking out a full-page ad that promotes the bridge to truckers and tourists. That'll be coming out in May, I believe. We've leased an office upstairs in this building here that's on the agenda for tonight. All total, I think I met with about 8 prospects during the course of the month. And to date, I've been tracking, done outreach to nearly 100 companies in the past 3 months, first quarter. And page 8 is the building occupancy report for Commerce Park. We're about 60% occupied. Most of the buildings are full, with the exceptions of building 1 and 11, which were repurchased when Breckenridge closed up from San Mina SCI, and we continue to search out tenants for those facilities and show those facilities on a regular basis.
Yeah, how is the, what kind of a feel you get for the markets in Montreal and Ottawa for, I mean, growth
still-
over there? Is it really slow, or?
Some of the companies I've met with have downsized, and some of them are pretty sad situations. People that had very large-scale businesses that have downsized. There's not a lot of growth. There still are possibilities there. This one firm I met with in Montreal, I mean, he's seeing exceptional growth in Canada, and he wants to translate that into U.S. sales, and he's working on a strategy to tap into the U.S. market, and he's an example of one that's doing well. So-
John, is it, I'm just thinking about this, you know, being on some of these trips with you folks and learning the overall picture of what goes on when you try to put something together for our facility out of what we learn from these different countries and different folks. One of the things that has been coming to my mind, and I don't know if it's a way we can do it through Congressman Owens, our senators Gillibrand and Schumer, of getting us a list, say for Montreal or as far as Toronto, I would say, of companies over there that's dealing with the United States industries. You know what I mean? Or like our military. Companies that's creating, making products and stuff for the military or anybody in the United. Do we have any way of knowing that?
We have a database of all companies in Ontario and Montreal that are exporters, and so that's a good source.
Do they have-
That same database we could break down into, and we've done targeted mailings to companies that supply the U.S. military. So
We have?
Yes, we do have that. Yeah.
We do have that, eh?
Yeah, and we update that every 2 years to make sure our lists are up to date. And, yeah.
So we could ask if, for instance, what I'm trying to figure out here is, you know, you have to watch everything today, and or else you miss it sometimes. Is some of those Canadian companies have to have a certain percentage of their business in the United States.
Yep.
And do we have that information?
There you're broadening out into like, you know, companies that supply transportation products like rail cars and that. We have a handle on, we have a number of prospects, like Tolmar is a good example, as a defense contractor. And we brought in Frank Ralph Limited that Tolmar provides as a subcontractor for. And they provide, they have a U.S. content requirement, and that's how we got them to locate here.
Okay.
So, but going out and meeting with the individual companies to find that out is the best way we have of doing that.
But if they have a contract with our government, we would have a right to get a copy of that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The reason I'm bringing it to your attention is, there was about 8-9 years ago, a company was bidding X amount of work, and they had the job. They met with us and everything else. But then all of a sudden it slipped through the thing, they didn't get the contract. Because it didn't meet certain employment product for the United States.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody else, but I just want to make sure that if we got companies that's dealing, if there is supposed to be a percentage of that employment here in the United States somewhere, like you just said, I think we should kind of watch for that.
It's one of our,
Because if somebody doesn't ring that doorbell,
yeah.
it might just be that 5-year contract they have with the military go by us.
It's one of our best marketing points, actually.
Okay, thank you.
John, would you capture that question? I'd like that same question asked at the stakeholders meeting as well,
Okay.
how we find those folks.
I don't know if you want to ask it the same way I did, but you might want to do it your own way.
It's a good question.
Well, actually, well, you kind of jumped across to what I was going to ask you tomorrow. Part of what we don't have really in place, members, is we really made an investment of doing this marketing research, and what we don't really have is, I like to have a formalized committee of marketing. People want to be involved in this committee, so I haven't assigned all the other type of positions, whatever, but I'd like to know who really has the time and commitment. I'm not sure exactly, John, maybe you can go back over and talk to them about what what's gonna really happen and transpire and the timeframes that's involved, because we really need to, really make a conscientious effort here, because there's a lot of things that are really going on, projects that we haven't really addressed yet, that's really gonna affect everything. And so this is really a very important step in our process. If we're gonna move forward, and this board is really taking a very progressive approach, I think this is, what you did, John, is get this started and, move this forward. So, I don't need to put anybody on the spot at this point in time, but I think we really need to know exactly who has the time and wants the commitment to do that off this board.
There will probably only be 2 to 3 meetings over the course of the next 3 months where DCG Core Plan will be here, including tomorrow's stakeholder meeting. And aside from that, there's going to be a SharePoint site that they've already set up that'll have documents on it as they develop and do these studies, like the SWOT analysis. Whoever does want to participate would have a password to that and could go in and edit, well, not edit them, but can make suggestions and comments about what they're proposing in terms of the marketing strategy.
Do you think we can, certain people kind of in and out, or do you want people who are going to stay with it the whole
I
way?
would say stay with it the whole way.
Stay with it the whole way, so you understand the whole step and process, okay.
Yep.
Any thoughts, folks? Anybody?
Well, thoughts of serving on committees or
On the
of
market,
this
on this
committee?
marketing committee?
Well, I think probably that's a whole discussion within itself. Maybe we should have some sort of a short workshop or something where we say these are where we can best use our talents, so to speak, over the whole committee type of thing.
Well, the reason is, it moved very quickly.
Yeah, it
And
is
this
gonna
whole
move
thing
very
happened,
quickly.
actually, a couple of days back, so it's like, okay, all of a sudden tomorrow, is it 9 o'clock tomorrow?
9 o'clock
9
tomorrow
o'clock
morning.
tomorrow, it's like, all right, so, I know everybody's busy and got schedules, whatever, anybody? I
I'd
know
like
the
to say
tax
I could
season's
jump
over, isn't
right
it?
in.
The tax season over?
I'd love to say I could jump right in, but I think a lot of people would be unhappy
I
with me
know.
if I did.
Well, I know
Well,
myself.
why don't I throw this on the table then?
Put it out
Why
there.
don't we go ahead and we'll do weekly updates on this, John. You'll be in charge of weekly updates. That'll go to the board members, and that way you're all informed about what's going on. It won't be long, but it'll be a short snippet about what we are and where the progress is.
Well, let's take it a step further with that. Tomorrow, maybe you can't make the whole commitment, whatever, but if you got time tomorrow to meet the individual and the agency and how they're gonna present this, I think that'd be crucial. At least get the idea of what's going on, so tomorrow at 9 o'clock, gonna meet in this room here?
This room here, yeah.
This room here, whatever. I think it would be much appreciated from all
You
sides.
only have 2 board members.
Hmm?
You can only have 2 board
Yeah,
members.
we need to be careful regarding open meeting
So you
law.
only
but-
have to appoint 2 board members.
Two
Nobody
board members.
volunteers, so that's when you're gonna be the chairman.
So I can appoint you now?
That's exactly right. You can do it.
That's-
Well, you're gonna have 2 board members at the meeting, so what I'm saying is, there's gotta be 2 guys that can, or 2 folks that can, Don and.
We'll have donuts.
And Ramona are both.
What kind?
Well,
Out of touch.
We're swamped.
Yeah, they're serving things.
I looked at my job description here, and
Yeah.
I saw my name on that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll do whatever I can, if I can,
Okay.
what is it, how many meetings?
There'd be a kickoff meeting, possibly a midpoint meeting, and then the final meeting before the report's done.
Final meeting in January, down in Miami?
It'll be done by June, so it's only a few months
Got a
long.
volunteer
Okay.
now.
I'll try to be here, Mr. Chairman, to
Okay,
help
I
out.
appreciate that, okay. Thanks for that, Fred, appreciate it. Okay, anything else for John? Any more questions for John, anything? Steve, appreciate your report.
Well, basically, when it comes to all the sites, with the early spring weather, it's allowed us to do a lot of groundwork as far as cleaning up parking lots and other repairs that things that might have happened over the winter. We've spent a lot of time on the port, a lot of activity there between the wharf lead being upgraded, and we are also taking care of some port improvements throughout the whole grounds area on the port. And that's kept us pretty busy. We've also sent some of our staff to different training things. The bridge superintendent is in Albany for the week-long NISDOT bridge inspection workshop. My building supervisor is in Syracuse for 4 days of, he's got an annual code enforcement workshop, which is required, and some of the airport staff will have to do the firefighting training in Rochester later in April, so we're trying to get all those things out of the way because we expect a pretty busy summer. Probably you've heard a lot about, I've just been part of a lot of the things that have already been talked about, so other than the road salts slowed down quite a bit at the port. As John mentioned, we did, and I don't have that number, but I know it's probably over 5,000 tons with the discount with the two companies has gone out in about 2.5, 3 weeks. But that was a lot of activity that probably otherwise wouldn't have happened. And it's,
Steve, I need to interrupt on this point again because I see the notes being taken down there. The discount is between the salt company and the individual municipality.
That's
We
right.
have nothing to do with that
no,
discount.
we just schedule trucking and we coordinate the shipments, but we have no insight into, we don't do the pricing and we don't sell the salt.
Thank you, I just want to clarify that for the members of the press.
As it was mentioned earlier too, there's the company that was hired is going to do the wharf lead grading. So far, the 2 days, the vice chairman was down there to take a look at that work, and it's quite interesting. And we have been busy just doing a lot of support work for the project cargo that we're trying to land at the port. I think that pretty much takes care of what I've got, if anybody's got any questions.
I just wanted to mention, I was down there yesterday at the port with Steve. We were watching the railroad put in, whoever that company was.
Phil Scoff Brothers?
Yeah, putting in that line that you wanted upgraded. And it was really interesting on how they were doing it and they're going there. I watched that machine there that brings everything up.
Compacts everything out.
Yeah.
I've never seen that in actual.
I
That's
thought
all it does.
Huh?
That's all it does.
Yeah,
It's
I had
big
to laugh
thing.
at when he started. He went a foot plugged up. He had to have a guy come and
Yeah.
shovel it out. But it's very interesting how they do that on that rail work. So, and that's going to be nice when it's all done.
It is.
Anything else for Steve? Okay, thank you, Steve. Committee reports, we have Facilities Committee, which met today. Fred, you wanna give us an update?
I just have basically, was it three? There's three, right? The change order with American Bridge and the agreement.
There's actually
The marketing
a couple
corporation.
of them. There's American Bridge Company, there's Revenue Markets is on the agenda.
Right.
Other such matters, things that move to the board level tonight is the necklace lighting, the discussion regarding Barton and LaJudas and the construction management phase of the
Okay.
project,
Okay.
and agreement with Atlantic Testing to perform the QA and QC, that's quality control on the port access road.
One thing on the Atlantic testing, if there's any testing needed to be done, Steve, for the concrete and stuff, would that be part of that? That'd be part of that, right?
That's all mentioned in there.
That's all is, okay.
Soil,
I-
concrete, yep.
It might have went by, I just wanted to make
Right.
sure we, okay. So with that, Mr. Chairman, the committee voted to bring the change orders to the full board. And wherever you wanna start, I would say the American Bridge would be the place to start. Is that all right with you, Wade?
Well, actually, probably hold off
Yeah,
on
we'll
that
just-
until we get down to the general business items. if we could.
Okay.
Sometimes we do that, right? We'll wait. Motor finance report?
Nothing new to,
Nothing? Any unfinished business? Wade or anybody have anything?
There's no unfinished business at this time, Mr. Chairman.
I noticed there is something from Kimberly Richards. Is that something we'll discuss now?
Holdover from previous time.
Yes.
I imagine we'll be in a position where we can take that up again next month.
Okay, just see exactly where we're at. Do they have a time frame for that? No?
The time frame is more dependent upon us than it is them.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. Let's see, we have scheduled, next board meeting is May 2nd.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to know if I could suggest something here for the board. I didn't realize this at the time, but this interferes with another board that I'm on. It's very important, the Wednesday night meeting. Is there any way we could change to Thursday night or Tuesday night?
Oh, May 1st.
No, but I mean,
Do you wanna go another night?
I don't wanna
Or
do
or you wanna go
Wednesday.
Wednesdays anymore?
Right, because it
That's fine.
interferes with a meeting. It's very important for us to be at.
Okay, that's your schedule. I mean, does anybody else need that type of flexibility?
I don't need that type of flexibility, but I didn't bring my schedule for May, because usually we go May to May, but you're probably in the same
Oh, I see
boat
what you're
with my
talking, yeah.
officiating schedule. I purposely blocked out Wednesdays so that,
And I think we are scheduled
so
on the
that I
1st,
wouldn't
8th, and
conflict with them,
15th.
but there is a possibility that
Then
I'm
we
not
go to-
scheduled on the
I think the day
other
after, Steve, the 3rd would work just up for that meeting.
Well, I can call to
Yeah,
find out what my
I think all
scheduling
these dates
commitments are.
here-
I just don't have them with me because I blocked out Wednesday.
I think these are all Wednesdays, this is what,
Yes.
well, I think we can
correct.
oblige you for that, Fred.
I think
but
we can go on
let's-
another date,
Right.
you know, Mondays, I think we're okay, and, well, I don't know what there is.
Mondays is fine with me too.
But I would just have to call
Tuesdays is
to see if I'm available
Well,
for the
not
date,
till
that's all.
November, so
Yeah.
I'm fine, whatever you want to do. Let's schedule the next meeting for May 3rd. And then I think
That's a Thursday?
that's a
Mhm.
Thursday.
Yes.
I won't be here.
Oh, you can't make that one yet?
I'll be in Syracuse in the hospital that day.
Oh, cancel that,
Yeah. Only 6 months to get it.
okay. Well, what about a week later? Do you need a little more time before? or you
Just
wanna
May
go
3rd, I know I'm gonna be in Syracuse.
Okay, so May 2nd doesn't work, May 3rd. May 4th is, I know we can't make May 1st.
To go the following week,
Let's go the following week.
like on Tuesday, Monday or
Uh,
Tuesday.
That's May 10th?
No, it's
no,
May
the
8th.
7th or the
May
8th,
8th would be the Tuesday.
May 8th won't work for us. 8th, 15th won't work for Steve and I know that.
Okay.
either one's good with.
What about Monday?
I would ask that you not schedule a meeting on Monday because of a commitment I have, but,
That's fine, well, let's
It's okay,
go
we can cover
We
it.
need to know that.
May 10th then. That's a Thursday?
We're only really talking for he and I 1 month, and then we're out of this, the May meeting.
Yeah,
So,
But does a Thursday bother you
no,
to have
well,
our
not
meetings?
that I'm sure of.
no,
Fine with me.
That would be May 10th on Thursday, right?
May
Are you
10th.
talking about all the meetings? or
Yeah,
just
all the
one?
meetings, I'm
Well, we'll do
talking.
that, once we,
Yeah.
you know,
Thank you.
from that meeting, we'll schedule. we'll do
Yeah, that causes a,
Well, that's a
Thursdays causes an
consideration,
issue with
because I was
me.
thinking, don't do Monday, I wanna play golf on
Hey,
Monday.
But maybe we can can we reschedule the May date? and
Well, let me
then
ask you a
figure
question, how
out
many
what
people,
we're doing there?
you know, maybe we're gonna have to go back, trying to schedule all these things in. The meetings that I'm talking about, it actually, this organization benefits from it.
Yeah.
I'm not there, things go through, and I don't even know they're going through.
No, we're gonna take care of you. We're
But
gonna
what
take-
I'm trying to say is, maybe what about going back to the morning meetings here? Now, we used to have meetings during the day, a long time ago. And we changed that because of a couple of people couldn't make the morning meetings. Now, we used to meet, what, Tisha, was it 8, 9?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, and we were always done by noon.
Mhm.
Maybe the board should maybe What, is that
I'm
bad?
swinging.
Well, I'm just trying to think here,
Well-
maybe,
No,
That, I can always schedule that around that.
I
The only
know.
thing, the only month for me in terms of any sort of meetings, my schedule has already been made up. I just don't have it with me. I wouldn't be against doing one morning meeting, but I don't work anymore. These folks here might have trouble making a morning meeting.
I would, I know, throughout the summer, because I'm around the county a lot doing school districts and villages and towns.
no.
Here, not here most of the time.
Does that change at any time, or is it you're just the same schedule done all the time?
there'll be in schools now.
Now, is your other committee every Wednesday?
Seems to be.
Okay.
Well, let's do this. I think Fred will, for accommodate you, I think we can go back to Tuesday. Tuesday, okay, for June?
No, I thought that.
For May.
For May?
Let's get May done first.
May
Well,
1st?
no, I'm just saying, I'm talking about June now. Is that Tuesday's gonna work for
Let me
everybody
just
in
make a
June?
phone call, find
Huh?
out what my schedule
Sure, that's
is.
fine.
Tuesdays are fine after
All
this
right.
month.
If it's the
I need to
first
talk with
Tuesday
you
of the
because
month,
that-
that's fine
that
with
does
me.
not work.
Otherwise, I got 2
Right.
meetings.
You pick a date.
And Thursdays, I'd like to go back
Is
into
May
the golf
second,
and play
or
for
you
2
on every
years.
Wednesday night?
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
one
On a Thursday.
I
That's
that
Potsdam's
Wednesday evening
opening
meeting
day.
is
On May second. Well, how about May
No.
ninth?
I'm like you, I haven't played in
all along.
Oh,
2 years.
okay, so every-
Talk
okay.
about getting
All
it back into some kind of a
Yeah.
league.
right. I know you gotta be, I want you to.
play
be,
Mondays
yeah.
out there,
Okay.
and when that opens up.
Probably in Houston, yeah.
Well, why don't we just leave it like it was and do May, that, what is it, Monday?
Tuesday is May 1st. If you're looking for a Tuesday.
We can do it Tuesday. Steve, are you all right on Tuesday, Sam?
Yes.
Steve's the only one that,
So
Well,
we,
no, May first isn't gonna work for me. I'm sorry. I had to think about what I'm doing, so. And we're only stuck in the schedule for the month of May, Steve and I, what we do. That's it. Boom.
what about the Monday? What's Monday?
That's
April 30th.
That's in April.
yeah, Monday's April 30th.
Does that qualify as a May meeting? It's so stupid, that, but. What is that?
April 30th
Yeah,
is that
April
Monday.
30th is a Monday.
Oh,
Does that qualify as a May meeting? Or do you have to have it,
I'd have to
You have
refer
to
to
what's our,
our bylaws.
bylaws?
Do you recall offhand? No, we need to meet once a month, but
what's May 7th?
May 7th is a Monday.
That'll work for
That would
me.
work with me.
Doug?
Fine with me.
May seventh?
Move the 2nd to the 7th? Okay.
So it'd be May 7th, 3 o'clock for the facilities, 4 for the board.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The
Are you gonna
7th?
need a personnel meeting too?
No, it's a Monday, May 7th.
I don't
Are you
know.
gonna need a special one for that?
It depends on how the resolutions come out tonight.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna, the board's here.
Yeah, okay.
All right,
All right,
so 4
May
o'clock on
7th.
Join first.
Okay. And those other dates, Fred, all the way down through there, we'll switch those off until exactly.
Well, if we can do a Monday or something like that,
Yeah.
well, that hits
The
you.
first Monday of the month, I can be here, the meetings can't start at 7,
Well,
so I
if-
can be here
if-
until 6:15.
So- If we
That
do
works.
your
That
report,
works.
once your report's done,
Okay, that's fine.
that'll give you time to go over and get
Yeah.
something to eat, and that's
any other-
understandable.
Yeah, like the second Monday, I have to be there by 5, but on the first Monday of the month, it's 7 PM, so I'm good.
That works.
Okay.
Okay.
So like
7th?
5:30. Meeting at 5:30. Usually Chris ain't meeting that.
Tonight?
Yeah, the meeting tonight, that's fine, I'm not going over there. Next up.
I don't want your sheet of paper, Steve. You have ready to tell
May 7th or
So May 7th, 3 PM facilities, 4 PM board.
That work for everybody?
yes.
Okay, thank you for that.
Now, you got something here on July 5th. What do you want to do with that July 5th date? It's the day after the 4th of July. None of us drink, but you never know.
That's not gonna be good for me on the 5th.
What's the following week?
That's fine.
Monday date would be Monday the 9th.
If any of those are fine.
Can everybody do that one for July?
July 9th?
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go, we got two of them done. What do you think of that?
Sam, what was the date?
July 9th.
July 9th.
May 7th, the first one, July 9th. Steve, are you okay on May 7th?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right.
Good deal.
What about the 6th? Are we changing that one?
In August, we'll have to
June.
look up another.
Is June staying,
June
It's
7th.
August 7th. All right, we'll get to those.
June
Okay.
gonna move to the 4th?
Okay, we have business items to take care of. Wade, you want to take us through those?
Actually, real quick observation here, with the June date, that falls right in the middle of when we're exhibiting at OBPA in Atlanta.
Yes, it is, yep. Next day then. We're gonna go the next week.
So that would put us on Monday the 11th, Monday, June 11th.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Does that mean that the 11th, you say the 9th, who's going to be not here?
On the
John, Wade, not.
4th, we'd be missing, yes,
Okay.
two staff members, one board member.
That puts both the June and the July on the second Monday of the month, which will,
Good for you.
okay.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay.
Now you're up.
All right, I'd like to direct your attention right over to page 10 of your board packet, please.
There's a typo in this one. I don't have it revised. We're a little short on the final in the resolution.
Just a
Page
couple
10.
million.
Yeah.
I could use the change.
Agenda item A1 is approval of a change order with American Bridge Company. I'll have Fred pass out a schedule that details the entire bridge project. At the end of every project, what we do is we go through and we true up the change orders. This is no different in this regard. One of the things that we'll talk about is we'll talk about the original money. You'll recall we spent a couple of years ago, we spent $700,000 to get the bridge shovel ready. That was reimbursed by DOT on this project, and you'll see that as Fred walks us through the overall bridge rehab project schedule. Fred?
Yes, this sheet, if everybody's got it, I think this was distributed at the facility, so some of you already have it. If you don't, let me know, I'll give you another copy. But the first line is the state DOT OPVA agreement of $22,778,000. Then the design work that was reimbursed by DOT at $700 left $22,078,000 for construction and construction inspection. This next little part there explains the construction inspection. The original agreement with GPI was for $1,581,000. When the paint was removed from the project, that went down by $230,000 to the $1,351,000, which you see just above it there on the right. So there was the next set is the final number for American Bridge, which is in this resolution of $20,891,709. But here I've got it compared with the grant of $27,27, which you again see up there under the construction portion, meaning that from the grant, we were $164,000 short. The next line is GPI, construction and inspection. The $1,306,000 is what we have paid to date. The grant, again, coming down from up above, $1,351,000 means we had $44,000 left there from the grant, meaning we're short $120,000. And that again is because the $700,000 was reimbursed from the grant for the design work, making the project shovel ready. The next set of numbers, the bottom set, are what if American Bridge construction bid had come in on bid. We would have been $607,000 short, minus that 44, meaning that instead of being 120 short, we'd have been 563. So the good news is they come in $443,000 under their bid, The bad news is that money's not sitting somewhere. We are actually $120,000 short from the grant.
But much better than we thought.
Much better than we,
Much better than we
than they
thought.
thought we were going to be, because
Right.
I think the original thought was that the 700,000 was going to be paid by us, and it wasn't. It was reimbursed by DOT. So,
And the bid was lower.
and the bid, and the actual come in lower than bid. They come in under bid, which is rare and appreciated.
So what you see tying out everything here is the change order from American Bridge submitted by Greenman Peterson that reduces the amount by $443,174.04, which is the number that you see on the corresponding schedule.
Any motion, discussion?
I'll move that.
Do I have
I'll
a
second.
second? Do I have a second? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Wait, Steve, you got a question?
Before I vote, I didn't really hear everything on the facilities committee report, but I did hear one thing that I need to know about. Atlantic Testing was going to do some work. Was it within the context of this project? Because I'm going to have to.
No.
Okay,
No.
thank you. Okay, then I'm ready.
Okay. So your vote is aye?
Aye.
Wade, take us out of order here so we can,
Okay, where would you like to go, Mr. Chairman?
I'd like the B&L just to help them, to know any questions we have for them, and anything he wants to say, so we can,
In your extra packet that will be passed out here momentarily.
Just wait and see
Why
which
don't
one
we
you
do
get.
this?
I know we got two though.
Page 9.
Page 9.
With the 23,000, 22. Bear with us here just a second, we'll get that distributed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, while these are being distributed, let me just back up here to the highest level look at Port Access Road. With the Port Access Road, there's a couple contracts that we need to do, just like we do with any project that we do. We need a contract with the builder, with the contractor, we've got that done. We need to have a contract with the engineer. That's what we're looking at here on page 9 of your packet that's being passed out. And we need to have a contract with a construction inspector in this case. And we need to have a contract with Atlantic Testing. What we're looking at here is the contract with the engineer on the Port Access Road. And per the discussion in the Facilities Committee, this was brought forth to the board for consideration. And what this is a resolution that has Barton and LaJudas doing certain aspects of the construction phase services for the Port Access Road. This also requires that the Bridge and Port Authority perform its own construction inspection, and that needs to be either an add-on to this agenda or a separate discussion, depending on the board's preference.
I'd like to see this myself, Mr. Chairman, pass as it is, and then the other issue of hiring an inspector be a different resolution. And we'll spell out in that resolution what
Okay.
that person's.
okay, we have a motion for accepting this resolution as is.
I would make that motion, Mr.
The
Chairman.
second was Don, second. Okay, I mean, this was really discussed a lot in the Facilities Committee, and I won't get into all the details, but I think it's best that as we look at this project, it needs to move forward quickly as possible, whatever, and I think this motion kind of fits our agenda for what we want to do and what our control levels are, if I'm saying it correctly, Wade. And I strongly support this. So. All right, we have a motion, second. Any other questions, comments?
Just one other comment, again, just for clarity here, this will require that the Bridge and Port Authority hire a construction inspector for this project, working for the authority. And that is not included in the $22,300 cost.
Wait, refresh, or Fred, what was the estimated cost before for the engineering services?
If Barton and Judas was to perform the construction inspection services, what you would be looking at is a total cost of $108,300.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's in our favor.
Okay, motion second. Any further discussion, questions?
Roll call vote.
What's that? You want a roll call vote?
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote. I think it starts with Don this time? Okay.
Mr. Hooper?
Aye.
Mr. Barlow?
Aye.
Mr. Laughlin?
Aye.
Mr. Demasha?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Yes,
Ms. Breen?
Aye.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so that would bring us back to agenda item A2, which is approval of a supplemental lease agreement with Stevens Media Group. It's on page 13 of your packet. And what this this is for space here in the Bridge Administration Building. You know this as Tisha's former office upstairs.
I thought you lost your office.
That's next.
You let me sit in it for 2 minutes.
Well, that's it. I want you to enjoy it for what it was worth. Have a motion? We have no discussion. Any
So
motion?
the space is being swapped out for some advertising time.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct.
What type of advertising are we gonna get out of this?
John, would you like to speak to that?
I don't know the volume of it. We discussed it, I'm sorry, I forget. But we will focus it on, based on what the board's been discussing, you know, promoting the bridge to truckers and that. I don't exactly know how many ads, but it's a substantial amount of ads. It'll double what we do with them presently.
We can get that information, spell that out, and
Okay,
we'll follow
I'm
up
just
under
curious
separate
how
cover.
much, you know, what type of advertising we're gonna get out of this for the amount of rent that we get, that's all.
But it's basically a wash from what I can
Yes.
hear. It's basically a wash.
Mm-hmm.
The space we're not using and don't have a good use for,
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
so, yeah.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion from Steve.
I'll second.
Roger, second. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, on page 15, agenda item A3, you'll see is the approval of maintenance agreement with the Revenue Markets Incorporated. This is maintenance on our toll system. For our veteran board members, this is the same agreement you see each year. There is one change, however, I'd like to bring your attention to, and that's the second paragraph from the bottom. Also included in this agreement is a clause that allows either party to terminate the agreement at any time during the contract's duration, so long as a written request is made at least 30 days prior to the requested termination date. We wanted to build that in there because when we eventually switched toll systems, we didn't want to be locked into a contract that we couldn't get out of. So that's the reason for the clause.
And they were okay with that?
Yes, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, they were.
I'll move the resolution.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Comments, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, agenda item B1 on page 18 is for a lease agreement with Advanced Business System. This is for 187 square feet of storage space in the first industrial building. It's really a de minimis dollar amount in the grand scheme of things, small space, but it is a lease agreement and that's why it's before the board. Standard terms, conditions apply.
Closet?
Pretty much.
Pretty close.
Pretty
Yep.
close?
Yep.
Pretty close.
Were they storing parts in there or
Parts,
something?
Yeah,
Yes.
equipment and parts.
I move the resolution.
Second.
Second, who's that? Doug? Or Steve? Steve, second. Comments, questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, on page 20, agenda item C1. This is the approval of the agreement with Woodcrest Dairy. This is for the 83 acres of land that the authority owns. It's put into agricultural service. Includes a 60-day termination clause as before. Term is May 1st through November 30th.
Wait, I just got one discussion about this before passing. This is the land that's on the, across from the transfer station.
This is the Wagner Road Industrial Site. This is the area to the east of the ACO building
Right.
and the area that is bounded by Graymont and the prison.
I would just like to make sure that Steve or you, somebody that talks to the, in a couple areas that they were plowing, they're not plowing now. And it's creeping, it's starting to creep. I think I showed it to you one day when we were over there. I'm still very concerned about that particular area. That, if they can get in there and plow it, I'd like to at least see it plowed. If not, then we can go in there with some type of weed whacker, I guess.
Fred, are you talking about right by the pool building
I'm
property?
talking about along the fence line.
Yeah, it's the fabric boundary, going
Oh,
up,
okay.
right up to the fabric boundary.
Yeah, we brush hogged that last year.
But there's some in where he was plowing and now he's not plowing.
Yeah.
It should be still in the agriculture.
Yeah. It's creeping back that way, yeah.
It's creeping out a little bit, and I'd like to see it plowed and kept that way because it's something that's part of his lease, and
Mhm.
maybe it isn't. If it isn't, then that's fine, then we'll have to do something different. I'd move the resolution.
Second.
Second, Doug? Questions, comments, anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I have to abstain on this one,
Oh.
Mr. Chairman, they're clients, so,
Okay. Everyone is-
I'm surrounded. They're good people.
Oh, I'm sorry. We said,
Steve, before we go to the next one, have you come up with any extra land that we could put into agriculture? Have you looked at anything? I mean, I know you've been busy, I understand that, but maybe next month you can let us know. Because there's probably some land that we could, put out there, and maybe some of the farmers would like to use it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think more from a practical standpoint, but,
Yeah.
yeah, that kinda went over my head, but, yeah, I know what you mean with that. We'll take a look at that.
Which one you ready to go to?
I think I've been ready to go to C2 at this point, the approval of the cargo handling agreement. Or would you prefer to
No,
move that
no,
last?
no,
Because there
go
may
ahead.
be a need, depending on the specific nature of your question, there may be justified in going into executive session. Because this is contract negotiation. I'll leave that to your discretion as we go.
What page, Chairman?
21.
Got page 21. Well, we're very pleased to report we've had successful negotiations with the wind turbine company for not one, but two projects. Specifically, this is the Marble River Wind Farm project in Cherubusco, New York, and the Kingdom Community Wind Farm. Actually, it's Green Mountain Power in Lowell, Vermont. The company that we're looking to have an agreement with is Transera International Logistics Limited. Term of this agreement would be from, that's not right, March 23rd, that's an old,
April 4th,
April
today.
4th, today, through December 31st. Now, the details are provided in Schedule A, and the Schedule A is what you have in front of you, a separate agreement. Spells out the specifics of the project. This is anticipated to bring some substantial traffic to the port.
Where's that at, Wade?
It was a separate thing, it looks like this was handed out at the beginning of the meeting.
Well, just a minute, because you got so many handouts, I'm gonna have to have Sesta come over to get me out of trouble.
I don't have
Do you have extra?
I don't know.
it. I'm looking at this right here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I
No,
don't.
they-
Well, they're supposed to be handed out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. What are you looking for?
There we go.
Mr. Chairman, I stand that I didn't have it. Did you?
I'll second that.
There was a little anxiety here, wasn't there? I'm looking for it.
You wanna throw the hat now?
Doug was still looking, so I knew he didn't have it.
Steve, would you spread that out, or John, spread that one out, John?
Nobody wanted to admit they didn't have it, so did they?
It's not the sound, the other side.
It's a map of the port. We'll reference that as we go through here.
Trying to figure out where to put something.
There's a couple things about this project that I need to mention at a high level. There's some things that can be mentioned publicly, there's some things that can't. Basically, what this is gonna mean to the authority, this means over a $300 million project is gonna move through the Port of Ogdensburg this year. It is highly dependent on the access road, as you're well aware. What this means is 9 to 11 ships for the port. It means direct wages of over $870,000 put into the community as a result of employment. It's going to mean 1,000 trucks, 210 rail cars, up to 70 people, with a 3 times multiplier in the community. And as I mentioned, it requires the port access road to be effective. There's going to be 91 of these turbines. These turbines are very large. They're about 1/3 larger than what we handled previously. They're heavier. They're bigger nacelles. For example, last time our blades were straight and were 135 feet long. This time the blades are 180 feet long and have a curve at the end. So to give you an idea of the scale. The nacelles are very heavy, at about 130 tons. And we're very excited about this project and very pleased with the staff's efforts and the team's efforts here to make this happen. I'd be happy to answer any general questions that I can in public session. Any specific questions, though, in terms of number of manpower, number of men, so on and so forth, on this, I'd like to defer to executive session because that is information of a competitive nature, and we're not the only one that watch our videos.
I'd just like to note that this was late coming, and it wasn't completely in front of the Facilities Committee either. So I believe we do need maybe just a short executive session on this, because it didn't.
That's a very good point as well. This document was not finalized until after 1 o'clock today. So that's the reason you have not seen it.
So I would move, Mr. Chairman, we take a short executive session in regards to this.
Did you have another issue for executive session?
Well, that's contract, labor union discussion, yeah.
Want to do that both in the same session?
I don't think so. I think we better run this one through and then get him back in. Because the other one's gonna take a little more time, I think.
Okay, I can,
I just don't wanna run them in on the same thing. If this is ready for approval, there's a couple things that I would just wanna discuss, and I would have been able to do it in the
all
other.
right, so we're not gonna move the resolution. We want to discuss this and come back to the resolution. That's-
Right,
That's what you
right.
want to
There's a
ask.
short recess. It shouldn't
Okay.
take us, what, 5-10 minutes?
It all depends on the questions that you ask.
How many pages?
My body would really love a 5-minute break. too.
Okay.
I'll second that motion to go to executive
Is that a
session.
second? Wait, Fred and Doug second. Okay, let's,
All in favor?
all in
Aye.
favor?